Time now for your forewarned weather with Chief Meteorologist Alana Brophy.
Well, you know, Alana says it all the time: when thunder roars, go indoors and stay there because that lightning is so powerful.
Good thing to keep in mind, Alana.
Can strike 25 miles outside of a storm, and luckily no one was hurt from that video, but we just had those deaths in New Jersey with that lightning strike, so you've got to be careful, especially this time of year. And we've seen an uptick in lightning with our monsoon surge and thunderstorms out there. Live view from US 6 over Spanish Fork, where they've seen a few storms, some wet pavement starting to dry in the area. The heat of the day allowing for those storms to blossom over in the West Desert with some fresh lightning. Let's zoom in. We're watching towards Cache Valley. Oh, Montpelier has a little bit of activity, but Malad saw some stronger storms we're going to watch because those storms are tracking to the northeast, so we could see places like Cache Valley with some active conditions. I'll check on the Logan camera. Looking towards Vernal, we have some activity, some lightning south of Price into Duchesne County, Nephi, Manti, Ephraim, those areas getting some storms. Richfield really over I-70 where we get those conditions, and then Milford yet again. They really saw a wallop yesterday with strong storms, lots of lightning and heavy rain. They'll see it again, and you can see flood advisories from these storms just over the state line. We knew that moisture would push a little further north today into central Utah, and with the heat of the day, we see those storms become a little more widespread. We're watching burn scars today because we could see that flash flood threat even into central Utah. Black Desert time lapse showing those towering cumulus. They build through the heat of the day. What a cool time lapse to see. Ivins in the upper 90s right now, 96 in St. George, 80s and 90s on the eastern side of the state. We've just hit 90 in Salt Lake. Mid-80s towards Wendover. Not a huge surprise. Some storms around that area, and we see temperatures running about 3 to 5 degrees below seasonal norms right now. 90s turning to 80s with the threat of a storm along the Wasatch Front as we get through the next few hours. About 9 o'clock, we'll lose that daytime heating and the storms will dwindle. But lingering moisture as we head into tomorrow will keep the storm threat, precipitation potential really heightened over the higher terrain into Castle Country, and then that corridor of I-70 and Beaver County. Here's our weekend setup because we're starting to see that monsoon moisture pull a little more to the east. The high over New Mexico, the low pulling away. We've seen this consistent surge of moisture from the south, but now starting to break apart just a little bit. Futurecast shows where we're going to deal with storms tonight and the lingering moisture for half of your weekend. As we look at the Futurecast, it's over southwestern Wyoming and Manila. The West Desert by 9 o'clock. We'll see those storms start to die down just a little bit. We're popping by Saturday afternoon, and yeah, there's potential along the Wasatch Front for us to see an isolated thunderstorm. So just keep your eyes to the skies as you're out and recreating. Drier air will eventually start to move in. Here we are by 8 p.m. We're gradually drying, but by Sunday, overall, we should be fairly dry, and that will be the case as we head into the beginning of next week. So moisture on the move before we dry out. Flash flood potential is possible in the Swell, Capitol Reef, and Bryce Canyon. Here's a look at the drought monitor because we've been talking a lot about that heavy rain, but the newest numbers came out yesterday, and I want to show you we've started to uptick ever so slightly into the extreme category, okay? 0.4%, Box Elder County. We're going to watch that. The severe category, which you see in this darker orange here, that actually went up about 5% since last week. Moderate drought throughout the state. Upper level Futurecast shows a dry pattern will be setting up as the ridge of high pressure, okay, there are the storms. The low is going to die down. We're watching this high because it's going to retrograde and get a little closer to the four corners. When it does, southwesterly winds will pick up. I want to forewarn you now that by the beginning of next week, we're going to see an increased fire threat. I think that we could see some fire danger to kick off the week. That low off the coast there is going to keep us a bit unsettled, but it still looks overall like a dry stretch here as we head into Pioneer Day week. 90s for tomorrow, close to average. Isolated storm potential, 80s and 90s on the eastern side of the state, 100 in St. George, where as you look, triple digits, stick around for a day or so for your weekend. Slight cool down Tuesday. We'll see what happens. Then right back up there for the Utah holiday on Thursday. As we look at the Wasatch Front, 90s, mid-90s is where we should be. The winds increase with that southwesterly flow Monday and into Tuesday. That's where I think we could see some fire danger or an elevated fire risk. Then we head into the holiday with the mid-90s and partly cloudy skies. This is the time of year where it's supposed to be very hot. We're going to stay on track with that with temperatures right where they should be. Those storms out there this evening and lingering into tomorrow.